Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We welcome all of you in today's session. And yesterday's session, Prabhuji discussed about the Dhyan Yoga, which it was in the chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. And now we are moving towards chapter 7. So today, Madan Sundar Das Prabhuji will give his discourse on chapter 7, which is knowledge of the absolute. So now I request Madan Sundar Das Prabhuji to take over the session. And I request all of you to hear patiently this discourse and share your questions or doubts whenever you have. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, over to you.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatai Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we welcome you all for today evening Gita Essence program. So we're gonna start with chapter 7. But before we begin with, we'll do a very quick recap as we generally do of chapter 6 in terms of what we discussed briefly and what's the connection of chapter 6 with chapter 7, how it gets connected. So in chapter 6, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about Ashtanga Yoga. Yoga is very famous today. In fact, is one of the big industry in itself. And the most popular aspect of yoga which is practiced today is either Hatha Yoga or Pranayama, which is nothing but another name for Ashtanga Yoga. Hatha Yoga particularly refers to the acts of gymnastics where they try to build their physical well-being. However, Lord Shri Krishna explains the purpose of yoga itself in the 3rd chapter. The word yoga means to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the 3rd chapter, we saw the yoga ladder, where there are different yoga practices through which one can attain the goal, the purpose of the human form of life. That is to re-establish one's relationship with one's eternal Father. And that's the process of this yoga. So here in chapter 6, Lord Shri Krishna speaks about Ashtanga Yoga. And through this, Krishna tells, through the medium of Arjuna, that Ashtanga Yoga is not meant for the age of Kali Yuga. It is impossible to practice the rules and the codes of Ashtanga Yoga in the present day and time. We are living in the time in the world which is filled with temptations and distractions, and every moment person remains distracted. Then wherein the question of dharana, dhyana, and what to speak of samadhi ever? To attain that state, first of all, a person must have renounced any desire of any kind of fruitive activity. Then a person can perform Ashtanga Yoga stages. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna, through this chapter, and as I said, through the means of Arjuna, wherein Arjuna publicly declares, not possible, my dear Lord, to follow this practice. And then Krishna says, yes, Arjuna, but you can still do it. Abhyasena tu kaunteya. By the practice of abhyas, vairagya cha grihate, and by the practice of vairagya. What is abhyas? To follow the 9 limbs of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. To follow these limbs of bhakti is what we need to practice. It begins with Shravanam, and today's whole subject matter is on the theme of Shravanam. We'll be talking in a short while. And Vairagya, to give up the foremost bad association, which is nothing but Yama, and Abhyas refers to Niyama, which are the limbs of yoga practice. To give up the bad association, to give up to give up the 4 sinful activities. If one does that, then Krishna says he'll be able to control his mind, he'll be able to make progress. And finally, Krishna concludes, who is the best yogi? Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham mad gatena antaratmanam Shraddhavan bhajate yomam sami yuktatamo mataha. So very important. Our 6th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, is divided in 3 sections. The first 6 chapters titled as Karma Yoga, and the next 6th chapter, from beginning from 7th chapter to 12th chapter, speaks about Bhakti Yoga, and the last 6th chapter, Jnana Yoga. So here, this 6th chapter, verse number 47, ends with defining who is the best of the yogi. And Lord Shri Krishna says, who is this yogi? Sami yuktatamo matama. I reside always in the heart of such a person, and such a person, a yogi, resides all the time in my heart. Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. How does he render service? With faith. So now Lord Shri Krishna begins to speak from chapter 7 onwards, where through the means, or not through the means, where Lord Shri Krishna establishes or talks about how to develop Shraddha, how to develop faith. So herein, from this section or from this chapter, Lord Shri Krishna will speak about himself, would speak about his opulences, the opulences of the Lord. In 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 4.1 to 4.10, Lord Shri Krishna gave a pep talk, an introductory talk. Now Lord Shri Krishna is going to go into the details of this discussion, and that is what the chapter 7 highlights. And more of Lord Krishna's opulences will be discussed in the remaining chapters of the Bhakti Yoga. So let's begin with this chapter. And as usual, let's define an acronym for this chapter. The acronym is HEAD, HEAD, and let's start with H, where H stands for hearing. Chapter number 7, text number 1, Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, if you want to know about me, if you want to develop faith, we have to hear. Krishna says, hear from whom? Hear from me. Text number 1. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Mai Asakta Manha Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashraya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Yatha Gnasyasi Tat Shranu. Hey Arjuna, now hear how by practicing yoga and full consciousness of me with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So how do we develop faith? Krishna says faith is developed by hearing. Therefore, this first verse of 7th chapter, the last 2 words of this verse ends with Tat Shranu. Hear from me. When you hear from me, you'll get knowledge about me, about my opulences, and then you will develop faith. Before we get into further details and analysis of this very important section, let's go to the fundamentals. The fundamentals that we discussed in our Gita Wisdom program. I'll revisit some of those concepts here. And the fundamental question is, how do we gain perfect knowledge about Supreme Lord? And if you remember when we discussed this topic earlier, I had given an example. Imagine right in front of your building, there's a very ancient building. Imagine 200 years ago. You can find out about that through the process of deed or maybe some documentation where you may learn about this particular building. But what about if something which is 1,000-year-old? There won't be any records maintained with the government office. What about something which is 10,000 years old? There is no way for you to figure out who was the owner of that place. Then think about how can we find out about the owner of this creation. 10th chapter, verse number 8, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhaho mataha sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all material creation and the spiritual creation. How do we find out something which was created long, long ago in time? There is no possibility to find out the owner through our own efforts. So there are three ways of acquiring knowledge which are described in the scriptures. First is Pratyaksha, Anuman and Shabda Praman. In case if you have not attended this session, so you may request the host to give you the Gita wisdom recordings. There were 5 topics where we had discussion on these subject matters in details. I'm giving synopsis right now. Pratyaksha, Aksha means vision. Pratyaksha means right in front of the vision. So Pratyaksha Praman refers to the evidence where we say seeing is believing. You show me, I would believe. Of course, what we see we can believe, no doubt, but there are so many things that we don't see. It does not mean if you don't see, it does not exist. If there is a light, if the light goes off in your house right now, if there is a pitch dark, you cannot even see your own hand, which is right in front of your eyes. So what do you think about what we can see? So Pratyaksha Praman has an evidence, gives an evidence, but it's not complete evidence. Anuman Praman is hypothesis, like Darwin's theory of evolution, complete hypothesis, where a person keeps on hypothesizing, maybe like this, maybe like that. So that's Anuman Praman. If by luck, we may be correct about that, but Anuman is hypothesis, so majority of times the hypothesis could be wrong also. For a hypothesis, for any simple case where there are only one option, which means when there are only 2 options from which it can be correct, so the hypothesis to be correct has only 50% probability. Imagine for which you have hundreds of options, the probability of your hypothesis to be correct becomes almost close to minimal, according to the science, in the scientific language. And finally, Shabda Praman, which means to hear from the right source, get the knowledge and move forward. Simple example for Shabda Praman is, how can a child know who his father is? As simple as possible, ask your father, ask your mother. In other words, if we want to know who our Supreme Father is, who is beyond our sense perception and mental limits, we should hear about him, either from him or else from his bona fide sources. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport to this first verse of 7th chapter, Srila Prabhupada writes, therefore, one has to learn from Krishna directly or from a pure devotee of Krishna, and not from a non-devotee upstart, puffed up with academic education. Therefore, Prabhupada writes in another paragraph of the same purport, therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. We can only know Krishna when we hear directly from Krishna or from Lord's representatives. So we already discussed there are 4 bona fide paramparas. Krishna himself says in the 4th chapter, 2nd verse, hey Arjuna, this knowledge can only be received in evam parampara prapta. You can only receive an parampara. And there are 4 bona fide paramparas starting from Lord Shri Krishna, Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Parampara, Rudra Parampara, Shri Parampara, and Kumar Parampara Sampradaya, where instruction to different personalities were directly given by the Lord himself. So that's the gist, that's the essence. So we want to know about the Supreme Lord, we have to hear about him from the right sources. Shrinu. In essence, how do we develop faith? If you want to know about Krishna, then Shravanam is the first step. We need to hear about him. Through hearing, we get jnana. When we develop knowledge, then faith follows. And when we develop faith, then naturally smaranam or remembrance begins. Just a simple example. You see a 5-year-old boy offering a lotus flower to Lord Narasimha, and the boy's name was Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad was born to a demonic father. His father's name was Hiranyakashipu, and Prahlad Maharaj was sent to a modern public school, English medium school running British curriculum, and he was taught that God does not exist. Yet Prahlad was fully devoted to the Lord. How did Prahlad Maharaj develop so much faith? Anyone knows the answer? Is chat box enabled? If yes, you may type in. How did Prahlad Maharaj develop so much faith on Lord. Although he was not taught about him in the school, his father was the biggest atheist. So how did Prahlad develop all this faith? Prahlad developed all this faith because he heard from his spiritual master Narada Muni. And where? Not directly from Narada Muni. He was in the womb of his mother when Narada Muni spoke to him, spoke to the mother Kayadu, and then Prahlad Maharaj in the womb of his mother heard. And that's how we develop knowledge. Another example is a Rukmani. Mother Rukmani had never met Lord Shri Krishna. She only heard about Lord Shri Krishna from Narada Muni. And she developed so much attraction or rati for the Lord, so much faith in the Lord, just through the process of hearing, that she decided to dedicate her life, devote her life in the service of the Lord. So that's the whole idea. Through process of hearing is only possible for us to learn about the Creator who is beyond our sense perception, or else there is no alternative. So when Lord Shri Krishna spoke like this, well, not only this, I forgot. The modern example of Srila Prabhupada going to the West. How did the hippies become into happies? How did Krishna consciousness movement spread it all over the world? It all began with Tat Shunu, which means they heard from Srila Prabhupada, they read Srila Prabhupada's commentaries of the Vedic scriptures. Like that, gradually they developed knowledge. From knowledge comes faith. And soon they decided to serve the Lord, dedicate their life. And now we have more than 700 to 800 plus temples all over the world. It all began, or it all continues even today through the process of hearing. So when Arjuna heard this, Arjuna began to wonder. And he thought, my dear Lord, all right, I understand that you can be understood through the process of hearing, but what to do with those people who ask, can you show me God? What do I do with those kind of people who ask such a question, can you show me God? How do I answer? Because they depend a lot on Pratyaksha Praman. However, you say the process of understanding Lord is Shabda Praman. So what do I do with them? Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, very simple. What is the difficulty in seeing me? I, as a Supreme Lord, is present everywhere. This brings us to the second section of chapter 7, where Lord Shri Krishna explains that he is the source of both spiritual and material energies. And understanding this truth about the Lord will enable anyone and every one of us to see Krishna everywhere, at all times, at all places. Just like Srila Prabhupada was going for a morning walk on a beach, and one of his students said, Prabhupada, look, what a beautiful sunrise. And Prabhupada immediately responded, if the painting is so beautiful, how much beautiful the painter must be. So it's a subject matter of knowledge. When somebody has knowledge, they can see the Lord present everywhere. So Lord Shri Krishna says, 7th chapter, verse number 4, very important verses, 4th and 5th verse. Bhumirapo nalo vayu khammano bhutthirevacha ahankara ityamte bhinna prakritir ashtada. Lord Shri Krishna says, 8 items Krishna is mentioning, and Krishna says, these are my energies. What is that? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. How many of you agree our body is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether? The body, you see this? There's a soil, earth. Body has water. The doctor says 70% of body is made up of water. We are a walking oven, microwave oven, carrying a 98-degree Fahrenheit temperature. Yes or no? We breathe in, breathe out, and the space between the molecules is called as ether. So are we made up of earth, water, fire, ether? Yes or no? Of course, yes. And of course, the subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and ego. So who does this property belongs to? Krishna says, this is my energy. It is Krishna's creation that we have got. There is no role of a mother in creating a body within the womb. She doesn't even know what body is there and what body is getting formed. So who creates it? Who brings the elements together and gives the form of a beautiful person like you and all others? Krishna says, this is my energy that happens. And then in 5th verse, Krishna says there are 2 kinds of energies. One is para, one is apara. One is para, refers to superior energy, apara refers to inferior energy. Krishna says, what I have discussed in the 4th verse is apara, inferior energy. Within this body, there is a living entity called as Atma, that is a superior energy. And this superior energy is trying to exploit the inferior energy, which means the matter. And like that, Krishna introduces the subject matter, and Krishna says, in other words, Krishna says, if somebody understands this, because within all our experience, wherever we look, whatever we see, whatever we feel, whatever we touch, whatever we taste, whatever we hear, is nothing but a conglomeration of the energies or the 8 elements that Krishna had described in the 4th verse. So whatever we see, even this building that you're sitting in is ultimately made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether in different proportions than to your body. So if somebody understands and knows the fact that this all belongs to Krishna, so wherever you look, we can easily understand there is Krishna or the Lord is present. So still, how do we see Krishna in the unseen? So Krishna says, or not Krishna says, this is a principle, the unseen is proven by the seen. I had given this example in the Gita Wisdom program also. Imagine you as a young child, you come to your house and on the dining table you see your father's car key. How many of you say, when you see the father's car key, you'll be immediately reminded of your father? It's possible that your father may not be there, you have not seen your father, but as soon as you see your father's car key, you will immediately remember father. Yes or no? Actually, the answer is yes. So why do you remember your father if you have not seen your father, but you have only seen the possession of your father, because you know the car belongs to my father? Similarly, when we understand that everything in this world and creation belongs to our Supreme Father, wherever we look, we'll be immediately reminded of our Supreme Father. That's the whole point here. And therefore Krishna says, Mataha parattaram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya Mai sarvam idam protam sutre mani gana iva. Hey Arjun, some of you might see the neck beads. Krishna says, when you look at the distance, you may only see the beads. But Krishna says, I am the binding factor of the beads. Mataparataram nanya, there is no truth superior to I. I am the cause of all causes. Mai sarvam idam protam, I am the one who binds this whole creation, this whole world together. I am the one as the truth behind everything, O Arjuna. I am the one invisible thread that is binding the beads together, and there is no truth superior to me. So in reality, we cannot see God with our naked eyes, as we discussed what actually we can see from our naked eye. However, when we understand the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, we understand or we learn that Krishna is the ultimate cause for every effect. Ultimate cause for every effect. If there is an effect, there must be a cause. Think about you're sitting in a cricket stadium and for some reason you dozed off, and suddenly everyone in the stadium is cheering, and you wake up and you see that the ball is going flying out of the stadium. It's an effect. What is the cause? A batsman. Therefore, when you look at the world around, we know of satellites who are flying in the sky. That's an effect. Who is the cause of the satellite? Well, there are some scientists sitting on planet Earth somewhere in the research lab and controlling the movements of the satellite. So my question is, if there are people involved in controlling the movement of the satellite navigating, what about this planet Earth? What about the other cosmic elements within this universe? Which ensures, or what ensures sun to rise up every morning and set every evening? Not even once in our lifetime or in the lifetime of any time, the sun has not woken up in the morning, have not sat down in the evening. Every day is the same thing. Who ensures the planet Earth rotates in its own orbit? Who decided the orbit? Krishna says, I am the cause. Who else could be the cause? A layman may question this, who is in control, and may think, oh, maybe a group of people, scientists working at NASA could be the cause. But not, of course, not at all. It immediately gives an indication there is definitely a Lord in control of things. That's the whole point about it here. So, in essence, seeing Krishna everywhere. How can we see Krishna everywhere? If somebody challenges, can you show me God? The two principles which enables us to see everywhere. First principle was unseen is proven by the seen. An example of the father's car key that I gave, because you know the car key belongs to the father. That's how we can understand. When we know to whom this creation belongs, when we look at the creation, we remember the Lord. Cause and effect. When you see this cosmic creation sustaining and continuing on, it's in fact, who is the cause for this creation? Who is managing it? And these are the two ways we can take a look at it. In other words, this particular section of chapter 7 brings out the key lessons. Very first thing, Lord and Jiva are not equal. There is no point in trying to become the Lord or trying to become the Supreme God. It's just not possible. In fact, Lord says, Jivas are my energies, superior energy. Second, because the body, the mind, intelligence is a gift of the Lord, we should utilize this to use it in the service of the Lord. Imagine a company gives you a smartphone. Why the company gives you a smartphone? To operate business calls. However, if a person begins to use it for personal reasons, would the company take it back? Yes or no? Of course the company would take it back. Similarly, when a living entity do not utilize the human form of life, the opportunity given in the human form, then Krishna takes the resources away and puts it into the life form where we don't have to, or we don't have an opportunity to exercise free will. That's how. So engage Lord's material energy in his service, not to exploit. Finally, Krishna is the source, is the essence and cause of everything, as Krishna just explained right now. And just to help Arjuna understand this subject matter more, from verse number 8 to 11, Krishna talks to Arjuna, tells Arjuna, I am the taste of the water, I am the heat in the fire. Like that, Krishna gives many, many examples to explain that whatever you see around in the world is all because of me. I am the sustaining factor. Arjuna paused and he pondered again. And now he thought, my dear Lord, if you are present everywhere, then why don't people accept you? Why there is a wholesale denial of your existence? And this question brings us to the third section of chapter 7, where A stands for accept or reject. Here Krishna answers why people fail to understand him. And Krishna makes 2 points. First, Krishna says everyone in this world is covered over by my magic spell. And second, people understand me based on their piety and the knowledge they have cultivated. Magic shows, I'm pretty sure some of you, most of you would have seen some magic show in your life. And you know, a person comes onto the stage, he brings a cage along with him, he puts a woman or a man inside it, then he covers it up with a black cloth, and then he pierces that cage, or he breaks the cage into 2 pieces and puts 2 broken pieces away, and everyone in the audience says, oh, what happened to that person who was inside the cage? Has he died? Or sometimes they show a person lying on the table and the magician takes a big scissor or knife and cuts or splits the body in 2 parts. And everyone wonders, oh my goodness, has he killed the person or what? And suddenly he waves his flag again, covers the body with a cloth. And suddenly when he takes off the cloth, and from behind that, the same person whose body was split in 2 comes back in a one single form. And that is called as a magic. Even such a kind of a silly magic befools us. This is a tiny, tiny magic trick. Imagine if Krishna has to play out his magic trick, how we can be befooled. And that is what Lord Shri Krishna says. Everyone born in this world is covered by magic spell or magic spell. And what is that magic spell? Krishna says, 7th chapter, verse number 13. Tribhir guna mahir bhavir ebhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam na vijanati mamebhya paramavayam. Krishna says a person deluded by 3 modes, passion, goodness, ignorance. We'll be discussing in details when Lord Shri Krishna elaborate on this theme in the 14th, 17th and 18th chapter. Krishna says, deluded by the modes of material nature, the whole world does not know me, who I am above the modes and inexhaustible. In other words, it means the 3 modes keep the conditioned soul forgetful of self and the Supreme Lord Krishna. So therein question comes, oh really? When did I got covered by the modes of material nature? And scripture says, as soon as a living entity comes out of the womb of his mother or her mother, immediately the intelligence of that living entity is covered over by the modes of material nature, and therefore such a person cannot see or cannot understand the truth which is evident, visible all over the place, as Krishna described that I am present everywhere. So two questions arises here. The very first question, does it mean when Krishna appears in this world, he also gets covered over? Well, Lord Shri Krishna says, I am the magician. The magician does not get befooled by his own magic. To give you an example, just like when the state chief minister, let's say Maharashtra chief minister, comes and visits the Pune's Tihar jail. When he goes inside the prison house, is he supposed to change his dress and put on a prison dress? No, not at all. But when a prisoner is sent back to the prison house, he's forced to change his dress. Similarly, when the Lord, the master of this whole creation, comes to this world, he does not have to, or he does not get covered over by his own magic spell. That's the first point about it. So, yes, so when Arjuna heard this, he became frightened. He said, my dear Lord, then how do I ever overcome this magic spell? To give you an example, how this magic spell covers our intelligence or vision of the Lord. You remember the day when there is a rainy cloud? The rain clouds covers the whole sky and the sun is no more visible to us. So my question to all of you is, does the sun exist? Yes or no? Has the sunrise taken place? Yes or no? If sunrise have taken place, why we are not able to see the sun anymore? Because our vision has been covered over by the clouds. The clouds have come on our vision, because of which we are not able to see the sun. Because we are not able to see the sun, it does not mean the sun have not risen. It doesn't mean the sun does not exist. Similarly, our vision is covered over by the modes of material nature. They act like a thick curtain, and we are not able to see the absolute truth existing beyond the thick curtain. That's the whole point about it. So Arjuna asked, my dear Lord, how do I overcome the illusion? Krishna says, yes, you can overcome this illusion. A very important verse, 14th verse of 7th chapter. Krishna says, Devi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam taranti te. Where Krishna says, hey Arjuna, this Devi, this energy of mine, divine energy, is very difficult to overcome. In fact, almost impossible to overcome. Nobody can overcome on his own. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, hey Arjuna, Maam eva ya prapadante, one who takes my shelter, Mayam etam tarantite, very easily he overcomes the influence of this energy. To give you an example, now almost every second person in this world, or a lot of people in this world today have dogs, pet dog. Now, how many of you have an experience, Hare Krishna, that's all. How many of you have an experience when you go near to the house or near to the gate, the dogs begins to bark? Yes or no? And dog keeps on barking. How much ever you say, hut, keep quiet, whatever you say in your language, English, Hindi, Marathi, whatever you say to the dog, dog does not keep quiet. But when the master comes and he says, hut, immediately the dog puts his tail between his hind legs and goes inside the house. Yes or no? Similarly, when the Krishna comes and says hut to the material energy, Krishna goes away, not the Krishna, the material energy goes away from the life of an individual and does not disturb that person. That is the point. So Krishna is the master. So Krishna can direct his energy to leave this person and go away. So Krishna says, one who takes a shelter, I protect that person, and such a person is freed from this magic spell. So Krishna explains here, hey Arjuna, I do not interfere in the free will of every living entity. It is up to you to come and take my shelter. If you take my shelter, I show you, I make your vision clear. And if you don't, then what can I do? Therefore Krishna says, everyone reposes his faith according to the desire cultivated, and therefore according to the desires that individuals have. Krishna talks about 4 kinds of living entities who come and take shelter of Lord, and the 4 kinds of people who never take shelter of the Lord. So Krishna talks about this in verse number 15 and 16. And Krishna says, Namam dushkrita no mudha prapadante naradhamah maya parat jnana asuram bhavamashritah. Krishna says there are four kinds of miscreants or impious souls who do not take my shelter, who cannot take my shelter, fail to take my shelter. First of them, Krishna says, Krishna calls them with a very interesting name, calls them such a person as Mudha. Mudha by definition means foolish, grossly foolish. In other words, they're called as hard working asses. Such people know nothing about life. They just spend their whole life in earning money. Goal of life is to enjoy their senses, fulfill their material desires, and they are so much put into ignorance of tamaguna, they cannot even understand that soon I will be faced with death and I'll have to quit this body. They become so much blinded by their material desires that they think this life is the only life and this body is the only body, this body is the only place where I can enjoy, and they waste their time and energy in this. So Krishna says these are mudhas. Then Krishna says naradhamaha. Naradhama refers to uncivilized people, considering or considered lowest of mankind, which means these categories are the people who do not follow regulative principles. Naradhama, they are the one who break all the regulative principles of life. So that's what Krishna talks about, Naradhama. And then Krishna talks about Maya aparat jnana. Maya aparat jnana refers to Maya aparat. Aparat means aparan, kidnapping. Kidnapping of what? One's jnana. By whom? The Maya, the energy of the Lord. Krishna says, these are the intellectuals of the society who are misguided and use all their God-given intelligence to make temporary material life comfortable. They spend all their time and energy of thinking of how to polish this body, how to make this body look better, how to look younger, how to give more comfort to the body, how to give more pleasure to the body. Like that, they misuse their God-given intelligence and they misled themselves and the society. And the fourth kind of miscreant or impious person who do not surrender is Asuram Bhavam Ashrita, which means the person with a demonic nature. Demonic nature means the one who is envious of God. It refers to the category of people who proclaim themselves to be the Supreme Lord. There are many Babas and Ammas even today who you might see them in Sanskar TV or Asa channel. They come in a very divine posture and they say, we are the Ram, we are the Krishna, we are the Vishnu avatar, and like that they speak about. So these are the demonic nature people who claim to be the Lord themselves, those who reject the existence of the Lord, and those who claim we are nothing but bundles of chemicals, and our existence has just happened by chance. There is no cause for our existence. So then Krishna says, Arjuna, there are also four kinds of pious living entities who come and take my shelter. And Krishna says, this is 16th verse, Chaturvidha bhajante mam Jana Sukritano Arjuna, pious living entities. Who are these? Artha Arthati Jigyasu Jnani Cha Bharata Sabaha. What is Artha? Artha refers to a distressed. When a person is going through challenges and difficulties in life, he goes to the temple, prays to the Lord, and that is what Krishna says. This is one category of people who comes and takes my shelter. So Krishna in this section is talking about four kinds of motivation which inspires a person to go and take shelter of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Second motivation, Artharthi, one who is desirous of wealth, success in life, and he goes and again takes shelter of the Lord. Third is Jigyasu, one who is curious, one who wonders why do bad things happen to good people, who wonder what is the purpose of human form of life, what is the concept of reincarnation. He is curious, he wants to know the truth of life, Aham Brahmasmi. He wants to understand who is this, what is this Aham Brahmasmi means. So like this person comes and takes shelter of Lord. In other words, like all of you, most of you could be put into Jigyasu category, where you had this inquisitiveness. What is this Bhagavad Gita all about? So therefore you all have come and have been attending this program regularly for all this while. And the fourth, Jnani, one who knows there is an absolute truth, and one who is in search of knowledge. Such a person comes to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So like this, Lord Shri Krishna says there are 4 kinds of impious and pious living entities, and the different kind of motivation Krishna spoke about of the pious beings, why they come to take shelter of the Lord. And finally Krishna says, but Arjuna, to know me is very, very difficult. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapatyate Vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Krishna says that level of spiritual purity where one can know me, who am I in truth, may take thousands of births. However, if one is fortunate enough to find shelter of a bona fide guru, then he can know this truth in a very short span of time. Just like Srila Prabhupada, through his writing or the commentary on Bhagavad Gita in English and then in all the languages of the world, Srila Prabhupada have brought this wisdom to one and all without any discrimination, and have made possible for all of us within this lifetime to know who is the Supreme Lord. To sum up this discussion, let me give you an analogy to help you understand. I want you to consider yourself to be the head of this family who have 7 sons. Imagine you are the father. So I'm going to talk about 7 sons. So you have to tell me, among the 7 sons, who will be the most dear to you? That's the first question. And the second question is, who these sons refers to? Okay, let's take a look. We'll see how much we have understood this concept that we just discussed. The first son is obedient to parents, which means to you, and you have given him responsibility to take care of younger brothers. Whereas the second son is a troublemaker, he's selfish and have rejected his parents. Whereas the third son is distressed. Whenever he's in distress, he comes and seeks your shelter. The fourth son, whenever he needs money, like you might remember your college days, the only time when the college student call their parents is when their pocket money is over. So the fourth son refers to one who needs money. And the fifth son who wants answers. So thus he goes and takes shelter of his father. The sixth son, he has a motive to serve parents, but he is not yet trained. He does not know how to serve the parents. And the seventh and the last son, his life is dedicated to serving parents. Among the 7 sons, who will be the most dear to you now? Please write down the number on the chat box. Would it be the first son, the second, or the 7th, or the 3rd, 4th, 5th? Who do you think would be the most dear to you? Naturally, the 7th. Because he is so grateful to you, he understands what you have done for him or her and is bent on serving you for all your life. So, this is an analogy. Thank you all. It's in 100%. 7th, you all understood the example here. So, my question to all of you is, who is the first son? Where the Supreme Father, the Father is Lord Shri Krishna. If Lord Shri Krishna is the Supreme Father, then who is the first son in this example? Yes, Devatas. Thank you, Ranjita. And Shreya, the others are also typing that Devatas, correct. So who is the second son? Troublemaker, selfish, rejected his parents. It refers to the 4 kinds of impious, sinful people who Krishna speaks about. They never take my shelter. Who refers to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th? 3rd is the Artha category. 4th is the Artharthi category. And 5th is Jigyasu category. So who is the 6th son? 6th son is none other than Jnani, who is in search of the absolute truth, but he still doesn't know how to serve him. And 7th son is none other than the devotee of the Lord. So this is a quick answer for the quick question that we did. 7th son refers to the pure devotee of the Lord. And with this, we come to the last section of chapter 7, where Arjuna began to ponder again. And Arjuna thought, what about other devatas, my dear Lord? You have been talking about yourself, people who surrender unto you, who do not surrender unto you. What about my favorite devata and Devi? How can you be so, biased, not talk about them, but only speak about you? I want to know about those other devatas. And this brings us to the last section, demigods, D for demigods. Lord Shri Krishna, through this discussion in this section, establishes monotheism. Vedic culture is not polytheistic, which many unfortunately believes. Polytheistic means there are many devatas. No, there is only one Supreme Lord, is monotheistic. In other words, message of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavad Gita very strongly establishes monotheistic philosophy, wherein the Abrahamic traditions, the biggest conflict the Abrahamic tradition, which refers to Christianity and Islam, have with Hinduism is, in Hinduism, the modern day Hinduism, they accept polytheism. They have 33 crore devatas. So the Abrahamic tradition are always in battle with the modern day Hinduism, because they say, no, there is only one God. Well, for your information, Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, there is only one Supreme Lord. Is somehow our lack of understanding and comprehension, we have made our philosophy or our scriptures to be polytheistic. They are not indeed. So Lord Shri Krishna would establish and make it clear. So for this set of remaining verses, we'll go in a question-answer format. So very first question. So, can we do one thing? The host, Madhuri Pasha, will do a question-answer format. You read out the question, and I'll go with the answer.
Ji, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
Question number 1.
Oh,
What
highly
does-
audible.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
We need to increase the volume. Just 1 second. We need to give the volume. And you have muted yourself now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Are you able to
Can you
hear?
speak now?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay, this once. Yes, very much audible. Madhuri Pasha, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. So question number 1. Why doesn't everybody take shelter of Krishna?
Yes, Lord Shri Krishna answers this and he explains. So the presentation would be available after the session on your student portal. And if you look at it, for every answer, we have given you the verse number. So this is your homework for today. Please go and read for yourself. See the Sanskrit, read the translation, and definitely the purport is a very important subject matter that have bewildered people of this country for a long, long time. So Krishna says, because of material desire, their intelligence is lost and they want a quick result. Therefore, they go and approach devatas. And Krishna have already established this in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. When you need something, approach devatas. But Krishna says, it's just because of material desire they approach and they don't come to me. That's the point here. Next question.
Number 2. Why demigod worshippers are called less intelligent?
So Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna calls them less intelligent. Why Lord Shri Krishna calls the worshippers of Devata less intelligent? Krishna gives the reasons also. First, fruits are limited and temporary. I'm not talking about apple and banana fruits or pineapple. The fruits means their benedictions or blessings are limited and temporary. Because temporary means they're restricted to your life form, this particular lifetime, and limited, they cannot award you everything. They cannot give their practitioner or follower liberation. Second, why demigod worshippers are called less intelligent? Because they don't understand the Krishna supremacy. In other words, the devatas who are fulfilling their desires are also doing it in conjunction of the approval of the Supreme Lord. Unless they have the approval of the Supreme Lord, they cannot fulfill. They are at all times dependent. Krishna describes there are 4 tattvas: Vishnu tattva, Devi tattva, Shambhu tattva, and Jiva tattva. Devatas, including Lord Brahma and us, are all in Jiva tattva. So therefore, their stay in this world is temporary, and their benedictions also temporary, and they always depend on the grace of the Lord for their powers to bless you anything. Those of you who have not attended one God or many gods subject matter of Gita wisdom, I would request them to attend that session. So there is no point of you, in case you're attending the session for the first time, to ask me questions right now after the end of the session of Devatas or on the Lord. Go and hear that session, and then we can have a question answer on this subject. Otherwise, people go on to the question matter, subject matter, why we call Devatas like this and that. So you may hear the recording and then come back. Just like, let me ask this question to all of you. Imagine you're working in a company and your manager calls you for a meeting, and our manager tells you, I'm so pleased by your performance, therefore I have decided to give you 50% hike in your salary. Now, whom would you give the credit? Is manager responsible for it entirely? Yes or no? Is it manager who is giving you 50% hike in your salary? Is he responsible entirely? Yes or no? So those of you who work in the company know very well, not at all. He depends on his manager or his company head to give you sanction for that. So he has decided to bless you, but he still cannot do it unless he has. So he is dependent. That's the point. Only Krishna is Swarat. No one else is Swarat. Everyone else is dependent. That's the point here. Lastly, ultimately, results will not lead back to Krishna, but to the planets of Anya Devatas.
Moving to the next question, question number 3. Jiva versus demigods.
So what is the difference between Jiva and Devatas? No difference actually. As I said, they are same substance. First, demigods are the representatives of Supreme Personality of Godhead. I hope you would remember the administrative structure of a company. With that analogy, we had told you how for this universal structure, there are administrative heads, and they are the empowered beings. Commonalities, both Jiva Tattva, both are Jiva Tattva, Devatas and us, are within the purview of the material energy. They are also affected by the Sattva, Raja, Tama Guna. We study or we read about examples of mistakes done by Indra and Anya Devatas, which are nothing but the influence of Raja Guna and Tama Guna. Ultimately, no sacrifice, even their yajna is not complete unless they offer the result to Lord Vishnu. Next.
What is the problem in approaching demigods for material desires?
Yes, interesting question. First, demigods cannot give benediction without the permission of the Supreme Lord. So if permission has to be sought from the Lord, so why do you approach the Devatas? Approach the Lord directly. First thing. Second, demigod worship is material, whereas the worship of the Supreme Lord is spiritual. In other words, when somebody worships Devatas, they do not get purified of their anarthas. Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they all worship Devata, but they never got purified of their sinful desires. But whoever worships Lord Vishnu or Lord Shri Krishna, they're definitely blessed with what they want. But when they are blessed, by that time, they have already given up all their exploitative mentality. And therefore, they can use everything which is given by the Lord in the best interest of their own well-being and of the whole world. Next.
Question number 5. How the Lord facilitates demigod worship?
We saw in the 5th chapter, all our desires ultimately have to be sanctioned by the Lord. If somebody wants to worship Devata, that must also be facilitated by the Supreme Lord. So, first of all, it is the Supreme Lord who empowers them. If he does not empower them, then why would you worship them? Yes or no? For example, Lord Ganesh, the worship of Lord Ganesh is recommended in scriptures to destroy or to overcome any kinds of inauspiciousness or any kinds of troubles in one's life. Now, who has empowered Ganeshji with that ability to remove obstacles from your path? If Ganeshji is not empowered to do so, then why would anyone worship Ganesh? Yes or no? We approach Mother Goddess Saraswati for knowledge. If she's not empowered, then who would approach? We approach Mother Lakshmi for wealth. For different devatas, different worshippers approach for their different desires. So they are empowered by the Lord. And second, ultimately it is Krishna who instills their faith, because that is what the worshipper wanted. Next.
Next question, question number 6. What is the understanding of the pure devotee?
How does the pure devotee act in relation to devatas? He never goes to devatas for material needs. Depends on the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever he gives. So you see the numbers in brackets, these are the verse numbers. So just to make sure that this is not I'm just writing it, is an exact reference which you should read or is advisable to read after the session ends. I hope all of you would have already received your copy of Bhagavad Gita. So you can easily open up and read it. Third, knows that everything comes from the Supreme Lord. And finally, does not ask for material benefit. For example, why a devotee does not ask for material benefit? When we are thirsty, then we have a hankering for water, yes or no? But when you have already drank 10 glasses of water, when there is no more thirst, would you ask for water? Yes or no? Of course not. Similarly, the devotee is so satisfied. He does not have a hankering. He does not have a thirst for any material things. Therefore, he does not ask for any material benefits. In conclusion of this subject matter that we discussed, demigods versus the Supreme Lord, demigod worship is material. Worship of the Lord is spiritual. Result of demigod worship are all perishable, but result of devotional service is unlimited and eternal. A pure devotee depends on the Supreme Lord and is satisfied with whatever Lord gives. However, Krishna is imperishable and supreme. He is unborn and infallible, and he knows past, present, and future. And lastly, Krishna cannot be understood by mental speculation or by simply discussing Vedic literatures. He can be only understood by rendering devotional service. So the point Lord Shri Krishna makes here, to understand the nature of the Lord, Supreme Lord, is not a subject matter of philosophical debate or discussion. It's a subject matter of faith, where the journey begins with faith, and with that faith, person begins to render service. Because Lord is independent. He is not in need of followers. He is not like a YouTuber, wherein every day there are hundreds of thousands of new accounts on YouTube are created, and everyone wants to become a YouTuber superstar. He is not in need of any followership. He's self-satisfied. So he can only be pleased as he demands. And Krishna says, I am only looking for one thing, loving relationship. I have nothing to take from you, so there is no dependency I have. But we have all dependency on the Lord, because we take everything from the Lord for our sustenance. And Krishna is willing to give us all that, but Krishna says, I need only one thing. I need love. I don't want envious people approach me. And who doesn't want loving relationships? And wherever there is a loving relationship, what is the consequence? You want to serve that person, yes or no? Wherever there is a loving relationship, you want to serve the person, then that is what Krishna says. Only by devotional service we can understand the Supreme Lord. With this, we come to the conclusion of the first chapter of the Bhakti Yoga section, the 7th chapter. And herein we saw the 4 prominent subject matters. First, we saw the importance of hearing. Krishna says, hear from me or hear from bona fide sources to know me as I am the absolute truth. How can I see you everywhere? How can I see you? People ask, show me, can you show me God? Krishna says, well, I'm present all over the place. Understand, everything belongs to me. Krishna speaks about it. Arjuna pondered, why do people still do not accept you as a Supreme Lord? Krishna says, because everyone is covered over by my magic spell, so they don't understand me. And then Krishna talks about 4 kinds of pious and impious people who surrender and who do not surrender to me. And finally, Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, what about other devatas? And then Lord Shri Krishna speaks about what is the relationship between Krishna and other devatas. And by establishing through this discussion the monotheistic platform or the philosophy, a very important thing, Krishna establishes there is only one Supreme Lord, and who we call as devatas are nothing but the administrative heads of this universe, or the universal functionary or the structure. With this, we come to the conclusion of today's discussion. Thank you all for joining in. We pause here for any question answers. And I'm glad I ended right on time, 8:31. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for helping us in understanding knowledge of the absolute, which is very transcendental in nature and very difficult. But with these acronyms, I believe we'll be able to understand and we'll be able to follow these acronyms also easily. So now there are certain questions. So Rajita has already raised her hand, And apart from that, Prabhuji, there is one fundamental question from Rashmi ji. And Rashmi ji is asking that whether this is 30 crore or 30 koti. 30 koti is 30 types of devatas or 30 crores. This kind of question even I have heard also many times. So
You might have Google searched it and you find all kind of answers from the Google Devatas. Oh, I'm muted? Oh, okay.
no, Prabhuji, you are audible.
Yeah. So this kind of answer comes from Google Devta. So there people type in all kind of vague answers. There are 33 crore Devtas in Jammu and Kashmir. There is a temple, a very ancient temple. You'll find the lingas of all these millions and millions of Devatas. Now, how is it impossible not to have it? Very simple. Oh, can we zoom in? I can't see. Very simple. See, let's say Infosys. I'm in Hinjawadi. Infosys here have how many? 30,000 employees?
Yes.
Just one campus have 30,000 employees. Through that, they're trying to create and function and manage so many things. Now, imagine you're trying to maintain this whole enterprise by the name of Material Creation. Material Creation Inc. company. Such a huge, massive management is needed. So why can't be there 33 crore administrators on different positions? Does a company require a cleaning staff? Yes or no? Does it have a peon? Yes or no? Does it have a security staff? Yes or no? So does this whole creation requires all those also or not? And these are all the empowered beings called as devatas in different capacities. That's the point. All right. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. I hope Rashmi ji, you are satisfied with the question. So Rajita,
Give us spotlights. Yes, please.
Prabhuji, is the demigod position temporary or permanent?
Oh, that's position temporary. If you aspire and desire strongly, maybe you may be appearing in the next life as some Devi. So, as I said, this is Jiva Tattvas, and these are the pious beings who are elevated to this position. Simple example. What happens in a company? The same thing happens in a company only. Whoever performs well is given promotion. Yes or no? So, in this material world, whoever leads a pious life, according to their pious credit, they are given these positions of Indra, Vayu, Agni, Varuna, Yamaraj, Ityadi, etc. like that. So, in your company, your performance matters. In this material creation, your pious activities matters. Accordingly, people can advance to the higher ranks. Okay.
next I could see Shreya Diti has raised her hand.
Oh, can we take questions first from adults if they are? We can go to the kids in a short while.
I can't see any hands or any question today. No.
Oh, okay.
Only
All
hands
right.
today.
So let's go. Yes, Shreyaditi.
Prabhuji, can you tell the 4 kinds of people who surrender?
Artha, Arthati, Jigyasu, Jnani. Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, verse number 16. Those who are troubled, those who desire wealth, those who have inquiries, and those who know God exists, Lord exists, and want to know how to serve Him. These are the 4 kinds of people who surrender to Krishna.
Thank you.
Gallery view.
Prabhuji, I have
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Adi Lakshman is asking a question. Yes, Adi Lakshman. I hope it's not the technical one.
Yes, Prabhuji, I have a doubt that is this Vayu, Indra, and these are all this post name or just their names?
In a company, you have a position called as CEO. You have a position like vice president. You are in school, Adi Lakshman, right? You have a principal.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
call him principal or you call him by name?
No, we call him father.
So you call father, whatever. It looks like you're at a church or a Christian school. So you call principal as father. Point is, you don't call him by name, isn't it? So all this
Yes.
Indra, Yamaraj, and all these are the position names. That's the point. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Mitulji is having question.
Thank
He
you.
has raised.
And as usual, that I generally request at the end of the program, because I'm kind of seeing only dark screen here. So to save me from eye blindness or night blindness, if those who can switch on the cameras, that helps me to interact. Yes.
Yes, Mitulji, please.
You have to
can
unmute,
unmute
Mithul.
You are mute. You are on mute. Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Is
Hare
this your
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Is this your first session, Mithul?
No, Prabhuji. I've been with you since Gita Wisdom program.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Seeing you
This
for
is
the first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the first time I'm asking you a question.
Yes, Mithul. Please go ahead.
First of all, Prabhuji, I'll like to thank you for your great wisdom on spiritual activities and Gita as well. Prabhuji, my question is to you. Can you have your views on Kul Daivat? Because in Maharashtrian culture, we have a particular group god, like let's say Kul Daivat. So, can you just tell
So
about it?
Kula Devta concept refers to within the dynasty, they accept within the family lineage, they accept certain personality as a Devta and they continue to worship generation after generation. Like you have a concept of Kula Devta, similarly there is a concept of Kulu Guru. That's the whole point, nothing else. So, I mean, what else can I say? So, this is one particular deity have been accepted in your family lineage for a long time, and they have
Uh,
been worshipping that.
Prabhuji, is it necessary that a Kuldevat can be a person who, or it is necessary to be a demigod? Because in our culture, like in native place, we had two people who were named as Sadal Baba and Pir Baba, who were back then like considered as the messengers of God. So is like I don't have
See,
any.
correct. To make a person raise him on the level of a god, unless scriptures defines, is improper. If you're asking a question in terms of Kuladevta, where some Baba have been made as a Kuladevta or some Amma have been made as a Kuladevta,
Hmm.
unless scriptures declared that such and such personality is going to appear, we don't accept. Even scripture says we can reject the Vishnu incarnation also if the scriptures does not talk about the incarnation of Vishnu. So any as such have to be accepted through the basis of scriptures, because scripture is the word of God. Scripture is the knowledge given through. So we can accept him to be an empowered being. There are people who get empowered through the practice of austerity, mysticism, and all that. But to consider somebody a mortal being as Devata, I mean, okay, it's not proper, and definitely not to call him to consider him as a supreme lord is definitely improper.
Yeah, Prabhuji, with due respect, it's really an honor to hear it from you. But since we have a very culture that we need to visit every year to that Kuldeva so that he has,
Yes,
yes, so to have his blessings and all, and we offer some rituals as well. So that
correct.
is the only reason I was asking, like, are they in par with the demigods or?
See, that's what I'm saying. These the devatas who we call devatas in scriptures are the appointed beings by the Lord, just like Brahma appeared from the navel of Vishnu. You know, so these are the appointed beings, just like the CEO of the company chooses the people on the most important positions. Yes or no?
Yes.
If let's say for a company, HR director position is very important, the CEO may get involved in decision making and selecting the HR director because he plays a very important role in managing the company. But he may not get employed in hiring an assistant HR. Yes or no?
Yeah, true.
Got the point? So the Lord is personally involved in appointing people for these positions of administrative heads, who we call as devatas. Now, what you're referring to Kuldevtas, if that see, many people have Narasimha as Kuldevta in South India. You
Okay.
know, those who are in Vrindavan, for them the Kuldevta is Lord Shri Krishna. Those who are in and around Ayodhya, for them Kuldevta is Lord Ram. In fact, for let's say for Dwarka, for most of Gujarat, their Kul Devta is Dwarkadish. So who you're referring as Kul Devta, who is a Kul Devta, it depends on a lot. And that, I don't know who that Kul Devta is. Is that a mortal being? Are you referring to Indra? Because they're all different personalities. If a person who you're referring as a Kul Devta has been given in scripture, announced that Indra, Yamaraj, Varuna, Vayu, anyone like that, Hanumanji, for instance, then it's a bona fide role. But if there is some Babaji or some great personalities, with due respect, they may be a very empowered beings. They may be a great devotees of the Lord, or maybe they may be mystical. Just like we have this Shirdi Sai Baba, a great personality who could cure and do a lot of things. People talk about him.
Yeah,
You know?
regarding the
So
same.
they treat him as their God. That is wrong. He's not God. Even if you read about his life, he chanted the names of Lord Ram. He said Lord Ram is the supreme personality Godhead. So that's a different reason why people call somebody as God and just misinterpret the whole thing. So that's the point about Kulodevta. I don't know who you're referring to. Maybe we can speak offline about that discussion in that
Sure.
sense. But if the Kuladevta is the appointed representative whose description is mentioned in the scriptures, so that in that sense is Yajna system, which third chapter of Bhagavad Gita says, yes, you can approach devtas and please them so they would fulfill your desires in that context. Okay?
Prabhuji, if I may take a few more minutes of yours, will that be fine?
So Mithul, why don't I come back to you again? Let's have more questions from others.
Sure,
So
sure.
we have variety of questions, and I'll definitely come back to you again. All right. Our host can again unmute you. So if others have questions, we'll take that also. Where are you from, Mithul?
Sir, Mumbai.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Prabhuji, Akriti was having a question. Akriti, would you like to come online? As we have written the question.
Prabhuji, I just had a clarificatory question that when you spoke about the shloka, the fifth shloka of the seventh chapter, was this spiritual energy that was being referred to the super soul, or was it something?
No. In this world, we have two energies: superior energy and inferior energy. Superior energy refers to jiva, atma. Inferior energy refers to the matter. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right. Yes.
Prabhuji, related to the Kuldevta question, Samhita ji has asked that, can we say that these Kuldevtas are messengers of Lord? So Samhita ji, would you like to come online?
It's very difficult for me. It's very difficult for me to say anything unless that Kuldevta has been described or have been referred in scriptures, and who you are talking about Kuldevta as. So to say Kuldevta is messenger of Lord, unless I know what's the philosophy of that person, what was the teaching, how do we know he was a messenger of God or himself a God? There are a lot of gurus who declare themselves to be God, isn't it? And later on, generation after generation, they become Kul Devtas for the same people in the dynasty. So unless we know of the person, unless we know their philosophy, it's difficult for me to say anything.
Prabhuji,
Anything else?
Yeah. Next question is coming from Srinath ji. Srinath ji, would you like to ask a question? Question is, can we feel the supreme energy in the normal life of ours? Yeah, Srinath ji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Somehow I don't see you. Or maybe okay, fine. Maybe your video is off. Fine. Go ahead, Srinath.
So, Prabhuji, I just wanted to share some of my experiences. Like they say you have some energy, positive, negative, right? Sometimes when we hear or we're going somewhere, okay, we get our hair at the stand, back stands out and say, don't do this, don't do that, okay? Same way, can we feel the supreme energy also? That's actually I want to know from you.
Okay. Let's talk about the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is identified as Swarat. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first verse defines Supreme Personality God as Swarat Abhigna. Fully independent, abhigna means fully cognizant.
Okay.
When somebody is fully independent, what does it mean? You cannot put rules and regulations or define a system around him. And in what situation he would appear to us? Yes or no?
Correct.
So, for the Lord, for you to experience the presence of the spiritual energy, the supreme energy, depends entirely on whom now?
The ultimate.
Depends entirely on whom?
The Supreme Lord.
That's it. Therefore, Krishna says, well, bhaktyamam abhijanati. So, if you want to see me, experience me, it is only possible when you serve him. We cannot demand from him. Imagine, Shinaji, you go onto the terrace of your roof, I'm sorry, what am I saying? I'm going to say you go to the terrace of your house. At the top of your voice, you're screaming, Modi! Hadir ho!
Okay.
You keep on screaming. What do you think neighbor's going to call you? Shinaji, क्या हुआ है? रात को नींद नहीं आई? बेचैन बेचैन घूम रहे हो? I mean, because you're screaming at the top of your voice, Modi appear. Is Modi going to appear to you? Does a person require some qualification not to meet the Prime Minister of a country? Yes or no?
Right.
You know, they have a formal procedure to file an application at PMO office, and then it gets sanctioned, rejected. Most of the time gets rejected and whatnot. So, for a Prime Minister of a country, forget the Prime Minister, to even meet the DGP of a city, you have to go through a process. You know, what to speak of Prime Minister, now what to speak of the Supreme Lord. But Krishna makes it very clear it's possible through devotional service. And devotional service begins with the chanting of the holy names. So, Shinaji, let us chant together. All right? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I didn't hear you, Shinaji. You want to chant for all of us once?
Yeah.
So how the devotional service begins? Please show us. Chant out loudly.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
So please do so. And when that Swarad being is pleased with you,
okay,
he will show you his presence. He will make you feel his presence. All is possible.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my apologies. Tarun Rathore is having question. I'm sorry, I didn't see that he's having the hands up. So Tarun Rathore, over to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Tarun.
Prabhuji, my question is regarding Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Like in Karma Yoga, you shared the one who is enjoy his actions and detached from the results. And in Karma Yoga, you just follow the 4 regulatory principles and avoid the sinful activities. And you had also said in Gita Wisdom course, like you have a Swadharma and a Nitya Dharma. Means in Swadharma, you do for the means you do work without detachment, and in Swadharma, you work for the soul, for the satisfaction of soul. And sir, Prabhuji, then what is the key difference between this Karma Yoga and like Bhakti Yoga? You have said in Bhakti
Correct.
Yoga.
Karma Yoga. Correct. Karma Yoga versus Bhakti Yoga is precisely your question, right, Tarun?
Yes, Prabhuji.
See, Bhakti Yoga precisely refers to the situation where a person knows Krishna is Supreme Lord and now he is engaged in a devotional service. Okay? Now, this Bhakti Yoga becomes Karma Yoga, or Karma Yoga becomes, not Bhakti Yoga becomes Karma Yoga, but Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga when a person is performing Karma Yoga under the direction of bona fide Guru, who tells him, who teaches him that Krishna is a Supreme Personality of Godhead and this is how you should serve him. This is the means you can serve him. So right now the person does not have a taste, does not have full faith, but have faith in the Guru. So following the directions of Guru, he is serving the Lord. So right now the bhakti may not be there, the emotion may not be there for the Lord, but because he's following the instructions of his Guru and trying to follow the rules and regulations of bhakti, so that Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga. Okay, that's the point. So if it is performed under the direction, then Karma Yoga becomes Bhakti Yoga, where the Guru directs you how do you live your life, like chanting of the holy names of the Lord. We may like or not like, but because we chant, it has been told to us. Then our act becomes Bhakti Yoga, because we are trying to follow the instructions of Guru and engage in direct devotional activity, bhakti activity. Isn't it? Now, Karma Yoga, isn't it a Karma Yoga? Why? Because you're utilizing 2 hours of your time in the service of the Lord. So you're giving your time also, right? Time is the most valuable thing. You're using that in the service of the Lord. So you're becoming detached from your 2 hours of the day where you could have thought of doing something else in your 2 hours. So now you're using in the service of the Lord. So that's how it becomes Bhakti Yoga.
Thank you, Prabhu.
All right. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, there is one question, and very, very beautiful question has come from Rishabh Dev, and I would really request you to answer it. Rishabh Dev is asking that, Prabhuji, few sessions back, you told that Krishna neither envy with anyone nor loves anyone, and now you are saying that Krishna is asking for a loving relationship.
For those who approach Krishna, from them Krishna wants loving relationship. Otherwise, Krishna doesn't need anything or anyone. Now, why did Krishna created this whole creation and everything? It was just to spice up his life. For example, why does a person needs a relationship? Just to spice up his life, just to add adventure. Because when you have a loving relationship, when you have reciprocation, that makes your life more beautiful. First thing. Second thing, Krishna wanted to have the pleasure of serving. Because generally, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is served. Now, Krishna wanted to serve. To whom can Krishna serve? Krishna would only serve his dear devotees. Yes or no? So, therefore, in terms of relation to Krishna, there is only one thing matters, that is a loving relationship, nothing else. And the Bhakti Marg is only about developing loving relationship. A relationship free from the vices like of anger, greed, envy foremost. The biggest vice in any relationship that destroys a relationship is envy. And the next which destroys is lust. Being free from these vices, even in material world, when we serve each other amongst the devotee community, we can experience the joy that otherwise the devotee would have in Vaikuntha. Just imagine having a relationship even with the one person where that person have zero exploitative expectation from you. And that person just want to simply serve you. And as a reciprocation, you just want to simply serve him. In other words, there is a person in your life who just want to offer you things to make you a wonderful person. Isn't that Krishna doing? It's Krishna who is giving us everything. It's the Lord providing us everything for our sustenance. It's a different thing. The potato that comes in our house today may be packaged of D-Mart or Reliance vegetable market. And a child foolishly may think maybe the Dhirubhai Ambani or Mukesh Ambani has sent this package for you. Well, the matter of fact is they're just a messenger, or not the messenger, they're just like a postman who have brought it from the agriculture field. Is it farmer responsible? Farmer is also an instrument, because the seed doesn't belong to farmer, and the land doesn't belong to farmer, the rainwater doesn't belong to farmer. Ultimately, these are the gifts of the Lord. At every second of our life, we will think the Lord is just drowning us with the gifts. Every single breath that you are taking is a gift of the Lord, yes or no? Every moment that you and I have to live is a gift of the Lord. That's the reason the moment that you and I are living today is called as a present. Present is another word for a gift. So how much we should relish the gift, the present moment that we have. If you understand this is a present, the present moment that I have is a gift of the Lord, nobody would be complaining about anything. Who doesn't like gifts? And Krishna has given you the gift of a life, beautiful life. I'll tell you this, do this simple exercise. It'll change your whole perspective, regardless if you believe in God or doesn't believe in God. When you wake up in the morning, take a deep breath, look at the sunrise, and just tell yourself or remind yourself that you're so privileged that you are among some or very few who have been given this benediction to wake up in the morning hale and healthy. because many do not even wake up again. For you have another opportunity to live your life to the fullest, to give love, to receive love. You have been provided with another day to love and to receive love. How would you live differently if tomorrow happens to be your last day? And if you begin your day with this, I don't think so anyone would have this whole, vague idea that people talk these days about positive energy, negative energy. You should, I would some other time will talk to you about this whole history of how it started. This was a whole business model that they created wherein the motivational videos or motivational speakers are minting money on this. We have just been made fool left and right on the concept of negativity and positivity. How can be negative? Atma is always positive. I mean, what is it? Negative? It's a terminology coined almost 50 years ago by two famous psychologists in America. I don't want to get into the subject now. And from there, this new business model came up. You may not know the history of motivational speakers. The motivational speakers are not of today. They've been existing. There used to be a stage program where the motivational speaker will go and tell them, give them example how to become successful and all that. I have attended when I was a kid. They've been existing for years together. And it all begins with one idea. The motivational speaker will drive away negativity from your life. And who is the famous motivational speaker? Who can crack the most jokes, make you laugh out loud? Is he a motivational speaker or is it a laughing show? You make a choice. Think about it. He's a comedian. And people say, what a great motivational speaker. How many people's lives have been transformed just by hearing some talk like that? Maybe there could be, but anyways, I don't want to get into subject matter. But there are ways we have been cheated out day in and day laugh. That's the whole point. Anyways, I went into a little discussion here and there. I, in fact, forgot what was the original question also and who asked me.
They've asked it. So we have 3 more questions and we have
Rishabh, did you survive my answer or no? Or you got confused?
Project a little bit in the between.
So you just pay attention on the first few things that I said. Forget about what I said later on. Right. Okay, Rishabh. Yes, do we have anything else? I have another meeting to go now.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. We have 3 more questions and we have 2 more minutes for another meeting.
Yeah,
So
let's
one
go
question is
quickly.
coming from Raman Groverji. Raman Groverji, would you like to ask your question?
Raman, my session is not complete unless I have your darshan. I have been longing. Where is our Raman? Okay, great.
Thank you
Go
so
ahead.
much for your kind words, Prabhuji. I am really elated.
I'm acting like a motivational speaker right now.
Yes. We all need motivation in these turbulent times, Prabhuji.
All right. Yes, Raman, go ahead.
So, Prabhuji, speaking of motivation, I have a question that being overly fearful about the next birth has the potential to interfere with our bhakti and has terror complications. Could you please guide us on the same?
So yeah, don't be fearful. Who told you to become fearful of your next life? Krishna says, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha, give up fear, give up attachment, give up anger. Don't focus on the negative aspect, focus on the positive aspect. Do bhakti, do the positive aspect. I'm speaking again the positive negative because that's what the terminology people understand. Engage yourself in the positive activities. Negative would automatically disappear. Don't too much worry and bother about the next life. Who cares? If you're happy today, who cares about the future? Because you know for sure. For example, a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, are you sure Krishna exists? Prabhupada said, yes. Swamiji, what if Krishna does not exist? Prabhupada said, why he would not exist? I'm telling you he exists. So that reporter said again, but Swamiji, assume at the end of life you found out that Krishna does not exist. Then haven't you wasted your life? Prabhupada said, who said I wasted my life? See, I am eating such a delicious Krishna Prasadam. I am having such a wonderful association of people around me. They love me. I love them. There is no selfish agenda. We sing, we dance. Who said I am having a frustrating life? Imagine if Krishna does not exist. I lived a wonderful life. And then Prabhupada said, let me ask you a question. And Prabhupada said, so my dear lady, what if at the end of your life you found out Krishna exists?
Right.
What would happen to you? You wasted life, and in the end of the life you find Krishna in the form of Yamaraj, and then you waste your future life. So pick your choice. Is the point. So happily be happy in the Krishna conscious activity. Move forward. Do what I've been asked to do. And take care of the don'ts, 4 regular principles, and forget about every other thing else. Engage your mind positively. Krishna says, "Manmana bhava madvakta madhyaji maam namaskaru." कहाँ भगवद गीता में लिखा है कि अपना मन चिंतन में लगाओ कि मेरा अगला जन्म कैसा होगा, 4 हाथ वाला होगा या 4 पैरों वाला होगा. Leave that on the Lord.
Right, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the great wisdom. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hari Hari.
Prabhuji, Kaushal Prabhu has already rescheduled a meeting at 9:20. So can we take 2 quick questions, or shall we take tomorrow?
It's gonna get too late. I have another meeting after that. Okay, who's asking right now? Quickly go ahead.
Devesh ji has asked that in which
Devesh is
Krishna
here.
has said that
No, let's take a question if a person is there. If not, then we'll skip it. We'll have it tomorrow.
Devesh ji is here.
Okay, say that question.
Devesh ji, would you like-
Yeah, Dipasha, read out the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. We'll do it tomorrow, Prabhu.
Okay, you read out your question. After that, we'll decide today or tomorrow. Because you've already asked.
Okay, Prabhuji, I'll read out the question. So please share where Krishna is talking about why he created us. I mean in Gita or Bhagavatam or any other bona fide scripture which he can read or refer it later.
Oh, so the purpose why Lord created, I'll get you the references. At least in 15th chapter, verse number 7, you will see Krishna says, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Where Krishna says everything, every living entity is part and parcel. So at least that declares and that tells very clearly that all of us are part and parcel of the Lord. Now coming to the subject matter of why Lord created, why the thing of this creation, I'll look into Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't remember the exact verse right now or the reference. Either from Srimad Bhagavatam or the Puranas, there is a reference to it. We'll get back to you, Devesh. You can ping me separately. I believe you have my number. What's the next thing?
Jagannath Prabhu is having some questions.
So Jagannath can ask his teacher, Mother Dipasha. I'll take leave of all of you for the next meeting here. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was
Thank
very
you,
nice.
Prabhu.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hari Hari.
Jagannath Prabhu,
Bye,
you can
Prabhuji. It
message
was
your-
very nice class.
I'll share it with Prabhuji.
What, Mataji?
You can share your question with me. I'll share it with Prabhuji. Jagannath.
Yeah, Mataji, I was having the doubt.
You
Some
can message me, Jagannath Prabhu. You
that
can
is
message me.
explained.
Okay. You just message me. I'll share it with Prabhuji. Okay.
Okay, Hare Krishna.